For me, it wasn't. You know, you're drawing black squares around words that are not from the English language, because it's usually pharmaceutical companies being sued for adverse events.
And someone's got to do it, and now they hire computers to do it.
And now they've got AI. And now, when I was doing the research, it's probably like 450 lawyers in Virginia that are doing that. And most of those, let's go back, are lawyers that probably lost their license or had a life-changing event that took them out of the industry, and now they are no longer seen as viable candidates for elite law firms. Would you hire someone that hadn't practiced law for 3 years?
No. And you stop asking the question why, and you just say, I'll move on to the next candidate.
Man, I'll tell you, since COVID, I have had limited jury trials.
Really?
And you and I, yeah. And so, like, I'm worried. I've got a jury trial coming up, and I've done some, and I'm not going to be bad. I'm going to be good. But I do have a confidence issue.
Well, when you say that, it does make me think about Tony Bennett. And, you know, when he was about to retire when he was 80, and they said, well, do you possibly get nervous when you go on stage? And he said, if I don't get nervous before I go on stage, then I don't go on stage. You're supposed to be nervous. I mean, there's supposed to be some degree of anxiety.
There's a level of care.
And does that level of care make you sharper?
If it's not something that shuts you down, you know, because that's where we go to.
How do you tap into that and make sure you have the right amount of anxiety versus too much?
So this is where my computer science brain pops in, because I have all these like diagrams in my mind. Because now I think about like Maslow's hierarchy of need. I'm like, well, now we're talking about self-esteem, which is built off of physiological safety, like physiology, safety and security, love and belonging. Then we get to self-esteem. Then we go to self-actualization, self-transcendence.
Calculations in the middle of a trial, or are these calculations that help you in general to sort through your anxieties in a larger sense?
It's a good question, because that takes us back to like computer science and like how does that change the way I think about things? And that goes back to how I think that we are like the identity of the lawyer, right? How can I produce the best result for the client with the resources I have available, right? And then, you know, Nadia, our integrator, had commented about how like no one can do everything perfectly. And like, that's what this whole endeavor has taught me. Because I thought that I had to be the only one doing it, and that I was going to get the best result. But guess what? I got other problems. Am I representing clients? Like, we just had a sales report, you know, which was quite frankly pretty freaking awesome.
Which is amazing.
How cool was it?
That was pretty amazing. Yeah, it was certainly not. It was certainly sobering to hear some of the sources for income, and if you feel comfortable saying, I mean. You have traditional sales revenue that comes from advertising. You have traditional sales revenue that comes from other referrals. But one of the things that I was fascinated about was how much money did you make from sitting on bar stools and talking to people?
Right. I was like, wow, what? How did you? And I was also interested in that. Like, you know what? I also had someone who was able to sit and take the time and break that down.
Right,
folks. Have you ever saw like lawyers? Any lawyers sitting here? You're a single lawyer. You're like, man, I'm doing it great, man. I don't need to worry about it. And that's how I was until I couldn't do it anymore. And then now the problem is now my vegetables aren't growing.
Right.
Like locusts might come, because you know what? It's getting really tough to get out of bed tomorrow because I got problems. I don't even know the beginning of where to solve them. So when you talk about the lawyer identity, some of it, I think, became this martyrdom. Right. Mm-hmm. And we're dealing with like really, like you did the kind of work I do for a long time. We're dealing with people that are raping each other, stabbing each other, murdering each other. And you never did the civil stuff, like the family stuff. Like now you've seen some of the domestic stuff, man. And even you had said, man, I purposely didn't do that stuff.
There was more drama in that than there is in a murder case.
Right. You know, and like,
that takes me a completely different direction. How do you compartmentalize?
Keep in mind, I didn't answer a question, I don't think, right?
Well, how do you compartmentalize that? How do you balance the fact that you're listening to people that have been raped, or you're questioning a juvenile on the stand who's saying that she's been? How do you rectify that?
This goes back to that like comp sci aspect of things, right? And so then there's a guy I love, Sadhguru. I love that guy. Man, he's got such interesting things to say. Who is it that chooses my emotional state?
Don't ask me.
Who is the only person that has a choice?
I'm assuming you're about to say yourself.
Right. So now, like, that was when I went to therapy after 2017, when I realized that I was having, like, that was where my burnout stage happened. And I think burnout, you know, we talk, like, we're talking around identity. And the way I think about things is black holes.
Mm-hmm.
I think about, like, how does everything move around the thing, because identifying it is so difficult. You can only see the light that bends around a black hole. So I guess when you talk about how do you silo that, or how do you keep it separate, you can't. And to believe that you can is futile. And that's literally what burns you out, because now you don't give the space and the understanding of what is actually going on. And what I saw was that my identity of being a lawyer, with the entrapment of what professionalism is, meant that I had to not be human.
Really? And
That I have to watch a family get eaten by existential hyenas and not be able to intervene, because that's not what a lawyer does. A lawyer only intervenes over here. I'll tell you what really, like, affected me with this recently. Have you ever seen the Safari? Has anyone watched the? It's super cool, man. You can watch safari videos on, like, Facebook, right? All right, you're sitting there and you're seeing these two zebras or two buffalo, and man, they look like they're just enjoying. They're minding their own business, eating some grass. Saw two zebras. I think they were looking to copulate. One was sniffing in a way that, you know, like you see dogs sniff, you know what it is. And then out came a lion and latched onto the throat of one of them. One left, and the other one, you just watch the light leave its eyes. And that is, to a certain extent, the practice of law in the 21st century in this area, because you recognize. So let me give you an example. Let me give you, Megan, or do you have a question before I get?
Well, here's what when you give that example of the zebras and the lion, do you try to get yourself to go to sleep that night and say, well, that's my job? Does that get your eyes closed?
One night. But now what happens tomorrow? And it's not just one zebra a day. It's not one, it's 5 a day. Or you're talking to the family of zebras that just had the zebra die, and you're trying to figure out how they're, like, and I'll be so, like, noir, but that's the bullshit of it. Right.
Right. And, you know, and they call lawyers sharks, and that's a different animal metaphor, but that's still a predator. And the idea still
throwing the blood in the water, like we're going to, like, take, and that's what
and that
lawyers,
makes you good at it. Is that good?
A part of it is, a part of it isn't. You know, all of these avatars must exist. You have to have a Craig Cooley. You have to have a David Ball. You have to have a Michael Morchauer. You have to have, you know, John Rockachar. You have to have Bill Dinkin. You know, but for all of those guys, you also have the people that, like, now are, like, and it has nothing to do with the particular individual. It is not the strength of the lion that affects that. And I think I think the missing piece is that we think that the strength of us means that the emotional state doesn't fucking matter, right? But then we heard from Joe Freed at the voir dire, the verdict. He was talking about, like, the understanding the emotional states of what's actually happening. And so for the law, when I know that I can affect positive change for the, like, actually create a good outcome. Can I give you this is where I want to give you the example.